Good evening, I'm Andrew Chang.
And I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Tonight, the growing economic impacts of the coronavirus.
It would be disastrous for our company.
From canceled events to interest rates and Canadians buying in bulk.
People are panicking over toilet paper?
Also tonight, how health officials are preparing for an influx of cases.
We don't typically think of pandemic planning as something lasting a year.
Our panel of experts has the answers to your questions.
And it's a super Wednesday for Joe Biden.
We are very much alive!
What it means for Bernie, the Democratic race, and Donald Trump. This is The National.
Canada has a new and critical case of COVID-19 tonight, the illness caused by the coronavirus.
The patient is a woman in her 80s in British Columbia who recently traveled to India and Hong Kong.
Unfortunately, she's had quite a severe illness, and she is currently in critical condition in isolation in the ICU.
It is Canada's 34th case so far, and with the impact of the virus expected to grow, today the Prime Minister named 8 top cabinet ministers to a special committee to deal quickly with any new health or economic fallout. Meanwhile, as trade shows weigh the cost of cancellation, we ask Canadian athletes about word today that the Tokyo Olympics are still a go. Plus, with all the hand scrubbing going on right now, a question: have you thought about your smartphone? So we'll get to all of that, but let's start in Ottawa with that special committee and David Cochrane.
During this outbreak, Justin Trudeau's government has had a sharp focus on the health of Canadians, but now an urgent focus on the health of the Canadian economy.
We need to keep alert, but we need to keep moving forward in a way that keeps Canadians safe and keeps our economy rolling.
The promise of coming government action backstopped by immediate action from the Bank of Canada, which cut its key interest rate by 0.5 percentage point, calling COVID-19 a material negative shock to the Canadian and global economies that will likely get worse.
This is not a situation that Canada created, but it is a situation that we are going through.
The viral slump is another drag on an economy already slowed by rail blockades, teachers' strikes, and snowstorms. So a new cabinet committee, chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister, to deal with the economic and health fallout.
Our first priority is to keep Canadians safe.
To do that, they are working with provinces to make sure hospitals have what they need and relying on existing plans for an influenza pandemic to deal with COVID-19.
There are enough similarities for this plan to provide us with a solid foundation and an advanced starting point for a comprehensive response.
And while the country is anxious, the number of cases in Canada remains less than 1 in a million.
I think it's important for us to seek a sort of, I would call it the Goldilocks response. Not too hot, not too cold. It's important for our response to be adequate.
And they stress the adequate response from Canadians to keep themselves safe is really quite simple. Wash your hands, cover your coughs and sneezes, and stay at home if you're sick. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
Right now, all of the cases in Canada are linked to travel, directly or indirectly. But at some point, the virus is expected to start spreading here more freely, as Vicadopia shows us. Preparation for that is already underway.
Cleaning up after little fingers, everything gets an extra wipe at this Vancouver mall.
We've been sort of ramping it up. We thought we would get ahead of it rather than waiting.
The same goes for the real thing. Trains and buses are now sanitized daily instead of weekly or longer. Some tourist attractions in Vancouver and Toronto are also being disinfected more frequently to reduce the risk of spreading the coronavirus. But not everyone's sold.
This cloth, this cover is not plastic, and nobody can steal these things, and I'm worried about that, yeah.
Disinfection is all part of Canada's planning for a pandemic. More cleaning of common surfaces, reducing public gatherings, self-isolation for the sick, and testing sick people who haven't traveled. There's also social distancing, which some are already doing.
I try to go sit at the end of the subway. Where we're sitting right now, it's pretty empty. If I hear someone coughing on public transportation, I'll move to the other side.
Honestly, we're right at the very beginning of this.
This infectious disease specialist says that extra vigilance might help reduce the spread of COVID-19, which is already passing between people with no travel history, known as community spread.
Why look to Iran and Italy when you can look right next door where we have so much communication back and forth? As soon as you see community spread in the United States, it pretty much guarantees we have community spread here in Canada. We may just not know it yet.
And unlike flu pandemics, no one has an immunity to COVID-19. That means this outbreak could be long.
This could be over 8 to 12 months. And so that's the hard part to wrap our heads around.
Which is why health officials say it's so important for people to protect themselves, as it may no longer be a matter of if more cases appear, but when. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, just today, IBM said its big upcoming conference in San Francisco that typically draws about 30,000 people is being canceled, replacing it a digital-only event. The fear is spreading illness to so many people so quickly. But this week in Toronto, a huge mining conference went ahead as planned. Jacqueline Hansen explains why.
This year, clean hands are as important as clean tech.
You need to be a bit more cautious. So the handshaking, you minimize that or you cut it out entirely.
Even though the world's largest mining conference is all about meeting and selling face-to-face.
We'll go over and show you the three main components of our modular clean tech system.
For companies trying to show off new products, being here is critical.
If this show were canceled, it would be disastrous for our company.
But organizers did consider that.
We got to the point where we were monitoring the situation on a daily basis, if not hourly basis, having update meetings constantly to essentially assess what needs to be done, whether or not to pull the plug on the convention or not.
Many attendees from China were forced to cancel because of travel restrictions, but Toronto isn't experiencing a coronavirus outbreak, so the show goes on with precautions. Many other global conferences have been called off, like Geneva's annual car show, after the Swiss government banned gatherings of more than 1,000 people. In the U.S., Google canceled its biggest conference of the year and said it's exploring other ways to connect with developers. But today, some U.S. business leaders pushed back, saying domestic trade shows need to go ahead.
Some of those are major international events where people come from all over the world. They are so critical to those industries.
Concerned also about the potential loss to local hospitality industries.
Someone cancels a meeting, who's out of work? Not me, but a housekeeper, a waiter, a waitress. The people need the jobs most.
As the conference in Toronto wraps up, the focus on staying healthy continues.
We've got pumps all over the office
to make sure sales made here can be completed. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, if you're planning a trip, something noteworthy here, Manulife says it will not pay out claims for cancellation insurance if coronavirus is the reason the trip is off. That's for policies purchased as of tomorrow. Industry watchers expect other companies to follow suit. Well, the U.S. has recorded its first coronavirus fatality outside Washington state.
This death represents the first death in the state of California from COVID-19.
The governor there has declared a statewide emergency, but Washington does remain the hardest hit. With 39 known cases, that's 12 more than yesterday, and one more death brings that total to 10. Today, the U.S. Congress voted to spend $8.3 billion on measures like testing and developing vaccines. And in Italy, the government announced a ban on fans attending sports events. That country has had more than 3,000 confirmed cases. There is another country, though, whose official reporting has been called into question. Iran has counted 92 deaths and nearly 3,000 cases within its borders. But as Renee Filipponi shows us, this is a place where trust is in short supply.
Getting a first-hand look at the situation in Iran. World Health Organization staff are now on the ground and careful not to criticize.
We are not here to evaluate the response by the Iranian government. We are still all learning about the disease. There are things every country in the world can do better right now.
But the government does face serious criticism. an open suspicion that things may be worse than Iran admits.
The capital, Tehran, has turned into a ghost town. People are not traveling anymore, are not buying, are not eating out.
This Tehran-based journalist says he thinks the number of cases is higher than reported, and the government doesn't want to appear weak.
Everybody is to blame here, including the government. They took the situation very lightly in the beginning, and now they have woken up and smelled the coffee that, yes, this is a serious problem because each and every country on this planet of ours has been affected.
The Iranian president blames U.S. sanctions for keeping medical supplies out of reach. The regime is now taking drastic measures, making the rare decision to cancel Friday prayers, even releasing more than 50,000 prisoners to stop the spread in jails.
Coordination, it's very much not under control.
Masa Al-Mardani studies Iran for a human rights group. She says getting people to take steps to fight the virus is hard when they simply don't trust the government.
In some ways it's justified, but in other ways it adds to the furthering of this kind of crisis in people, not following orders.
Medical workers, in defiance of the government's response, share videos on social media. An effort to find some light amid the dark reality that Iran is now in. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
And we'll have more on the coronavirus a bit later in the program. We're going to take a critical look at the need for Canadians to stockpile supplies and what exactly experts say we should be stocking up on.
In the U.S., the Democrats' choice for president is coming into sharper focus. And today, the pitched battle between the party's two disparate halves began in earnest.
It's a good night. It's a good night.
Joe Biden reemerged as the front-runner last night, winning 10 states. Bernie Sanders is close on his heels with a strong lead in delegate-rich California. In that state, they're still counting. But when it comes to the overall delegate count, it appears Biden will still have the advantage. And as Paul Hunter reports today, it was even clearer. The momentum has shifted.
First signal today that all of a sudden in the U.S. it's a changed political landscape, one of the many Mike Bloomberg offices in Virginia this morning. Locked tight, emptied, closed. After winning not a single state Super Tuesday, he's now the latest Democrat to quit this contest and the latest to do this.
I endorse Joe Biden, and I hope you will join me in working to make him the next president of the United States of America.
The path toward that for Joe Biden last night took a giant step forward.
They don't call Super Tuesday for nothing.
Such a big deal. Today, even Donald Trump acknowledged it.
Now I think Joe actually would have the advantage now.
In essence, the Super Tuesday results give Democrats finally a clear choice on how to best take on Trump. The democratic socialist politics of Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden's push for simply a so-called return to normal, with voters last night, for the most part, choosing the latter. Today, a seemingly frustrated Bernie Sanders painted himself as victim.
There has been never a campaign in recent history which has taken on the entire political establishment, and that is an establishment which is working frantically to try to defeat us.
Still, back in Charlottesburg, Virginia, a state that strongly backed Biden last night, the broad feeling seemed to be, if this is about defeating Donald Trump, maybe Democrat voters are finally figuring it out.
If you're looking at what's good for the entire country, you have to look at Biden.
We might be just rolling in the right direction.
I think that the path is getting clearer.
Okay, Paul, so these two front-runner candidates, they represent such a huge divide in the party. How is this likely to play out over the next few months?
Well, it's now effectively a one or the other choice. Look, this has been the question for Democrats all along. Is this election going to be about policy and ideology, i.e. Bernie Sanders and the view you should be voting for something, for tangible things that will affect your life, universal health care, for example? Or is this not that election at all? That this is about one thing and one thing only, and that's getting Trump out of the White House, i.e. Joe Biden and what he represents. Get the car out of the ditch and back on the road End of story. The thinking is that that kind of candidate will attract Republicans who don't like Trump and might vote for a Democrat if that Democrat won't rock the boat. And that's Biden. So what's it going to be? Which path is most important? After all this time, it's now a clear choice, and that's where Democrats are tonight.
All right, Paul Hunter in Washington. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
There was another eruption of violence at the border between Greece and Turkey today. Turkish officials accuse Greek soldiers of fatally shooting one migrant as they try to keep thousands more out with tear gas and water cannons. The migrants have now been pushed back from the border, left waiting in limbo, their next steps uncertain. Margaret Evans is there.
Gather in your children. That's what these women are doing along Turkey's northern border with Greece. Night approaching, no shelter in sight. The people here took the Turkish president at his word when he said he would send thousands of migrants pouring into Europe. But the door is not his to open, and this morning, Greek police again repelled those trying to cross. 18-year-old Ibrahim Gazel described chaotic scenes, Greek police beating people with batons. Greece released this video saying Turkish soldiers fired tear gas at their police to push them back from the border. Turkey accused Greece of firing at migrants.
We're about 6 kilometers from the Greek border here, but the Turkish police aren't letting us go any further. They're also stopping the people around us from going any further. But this river behind me does lead to Greece, and we're hearing that people are now moving along it in the hopes of finding a place to cross.
The Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, will meet with Vladimir Putin in Moscow tomorrow over the escalating tensions with Syria. I expect to achieve an enduring ceasefire in the region, he says. The people here aren't a wave of new refugees, at least not yet. Some are economic migrants, others are Syrians who fled the fighting well before the Syrian regime's latest offensive. But all are hostage to the big players now flexing their muscles. Gazel, who fled Syria for Turkey when he was 12, says he's tired. We are human beings, he says. We're not animals. And they are asking for mercy, for someone to see them in the dark. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Edirne, northern Turkey.
We do have an update for you on a story that we brought you last month. You might remember 3-year-old Syrian girl Salwa and her father Abdullah. To keep his little girl calm, Abdullah turned the terrifying shelling nearby into a game.
في طيارة اللي قذيفي قذيفي
احنا كل جديد بضحك
بضحك معه.
Father and daughter would laugh every time they heard an explosion. The family had fled the increasing violence in their town towards the Turkish border. Now, Salwa and her family have made it into Turkey. Her father is relieved, to be sure, but also realistic about just how hard the road ahead might be.
The International Olympic Committee says the Games will go on.
Neither the word cancellation nor the word postponement was even mentioned.
Up next, how athletes and organizers are preparing for Tokyo 2020 despite the coronavirus outbreak.
Plus, stocking up for the worst-case scenario.
People are panicking over toilet paper?
We ask our panel of health experts what you need to do to plan responsibly.
And the story behind this moment. The comeback kid and the women who intervened. We're back in 2.
Japan is one of the countries affected by COVID-19. It's also set to host this summer's Olympics. And so, a clear concern for athletes, fans, sponsors, and others, will the show go on? Today, the head of the International Olympic Committee was pretty clear. Jamie Strachan picks up the story.
I can tell you that today in the meeting of the executive board, neither the word cancellation nor the word postponement was even mentioned.
Thomas Bach wanted to talk about all the decisions the IOC made today, but journalists kept coming back to one key question. Would the Tokyo Olympics happen in late July as planned?
Again, I will not add fuel to the flame of speculation by giving a date here, giving a date out.
Bit of a showman. The stakes are high. International broadcasters, including the CBC, have paid billions for games at a time when the sport calendar is light. And yet, dozens of global sporting events, including a handful of Olympic qualifiers, have been postponed, canceled, or moved. And in Japan, schools are closed, and baseball fans have been told to stay home from professional games.
It is scary, but I just try not to think about it.
Canadian athletes are doing their best to prepare.
It's going to be tough, but I just have to continue to keep focusing on my sport and hoping that by the time the Olympics come around, everything is cleared and everything's ready to go.
I think I'm looking to just kind of wait and see and trust in the process of containing these things and regulating it and then kind of make a judgment from there and not be so haste to panic.
The Canadian Olympic Committee's former chief doctor says the IOC is relying on the best available advice.
I think what they're saying is, let's not panic. Let's see how this evolves. We're not going to be forced into making decisions that people will jump on and run with until we actually know what needs to be done.
Team Canada!
McCormick says for Team Canada, it's full steam ahead at this point. For athletes, there can be no other approach. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Here are some of the other stories we're watching across Canada tonight.
Our focus is very much on resolving this peacefully. I do not think it is ever appropriate to send the military against Canadian citizens.
Prime Minister Trudeau insisted today that dialogue, not the army, is the solution to end an ongoing barricade on a commuter rail line south of Montreal. His comments came after a union of Quebec officers asked for military assistance if police are sent to intervene. The blockade in the Mohawk Territory was erected nearly a month ago as a show of support for Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs in BC. And Ontario's 42 rape crisis centres have learned the $1 million funding boost they received from the province last year will not be renewed, fueling concern that wait times will spike as a result. The funding in the 2019 budget was meant to deal with a backlog of survivors and victims who required counseling and support services. And a legal victory for more than 300 Canadian women who suffered serious side effects from this net-like implant. The transvaginal mesh is used to treat conditions such as urinary incontinence or pelvic organ prolapse. Its manufacturer, Boston Scientific, has now agreed to pay $21.5 million in compensation as part of a class action settlement. The implant was pulled from the shelves last year.
And when we come back, amid the coronavirus outbreak, how to prepare for the worst, but avoid scenes like this. Next, we talk about what's worth stocking up on with our panel of health experts.
And the aftermath of a deadly tornado in Tennessee, how the search for survivors continues. We'll be right back.
Okay, returning now to our top story, the global spread of the coronavirus. Health officials have been adamant the risk to Canadians is low, but lots of folks are worried that could change. And as Ali Chioson shows us, they're shopping now for a worst-case scenario.
Costco can be a busy place any time of the week, but it's especially noticeable these days.
It's like Christmas time.
Yeah. Only featuring more people wearing face masks, stocking up on essentials.
Stupid. So people are panicking over toilet paper?
They are. From Vancouver to Calgary to Toronto. Even though Ontario has the most people in self-isolation, the message from the health minister is clear.
People should not panic and know they don't need to stock up. This system is working. I would like to assure the people of Ontario, and the risk to Ontarians remains low.
But retailers and organizations are preparing what they call pandemic plans.
This is Daily Bread's new fridge.
For the Daily Bread Food Bank, that means thinking about the people who can't afford to stock up.
If this goes south in a dramatic way, do we make a single monthly delivery rather than weekly deliveries? If you're using public transit to get your food on a weekly basis, and suddenly you've got to carry 4 times that food back home, how do we accommodate that?
And the more people deplete store shelves, the less food is available for food bank shelves.
We're a little bit concerned that as we go out and solicit industry donations, that because the demand is there, they will perhaps think twice about donating to a local charity.
The Canadian Retail Council, which monitors buying behavior, says there's no need to panic.
We're not seeing massive runs on product, and also we've spent a bit of time talking to suppliers, who manufacturers primarily, but also importers, and they give us pretty strong assurance that they can meet the demand.
But that's as long as things stay the way they are when it comes to the spread of the virus and to the fear it causes. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so lots to digest and discuss there. Joining us, we've got plenty of expertise around the table. We have two infectious disease specialists, Dr. Colin Lee joining us, as well as Dr. Susie Hota, and Doris Grinspun is president of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario, also, of course, a registered nurse yourself. Maybe you can start us off. I mean, you saw the piece there. What is that fine line between preparing, stockpiling, and hoarding?
We are advising people that it is smart to stockpile for 2 weeks. If this goes a bit broader, it will be in the community, and so people will be self-isolated at home or will want to be self-isolated to protect themselves and others. So to have food for 2 weeks, things that are nutritious and toilet paper, yes, I also heard is running out, so here you go.
And just to be clear, this is the prevailing advice right now, that we ought to be stockpiling for 2 weeks worth of supplies?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is reasonable because, you know, when you have multiple people ill at home and you want to recover, it may take a week, and there might be public health advice to either self-isolate or quarantine at home. So having your essential medicines, prescriptions, cough and cold medicines, acetaminophen, some canned goods is a good idea. But I think just as important is having a neighborhood plan, is to ensure that you know the people who you can call upon to help drop food off. Right. Because not everyone, your friends and family and your neighbors are going to be ill at the same time. And so if you can't go out, a call to them would help. And as well, the vulnerable people around you, the elderly woman who lives down the street, who you know lives alone, to give them a call to see if they need anything. So I think that is really important.
Right, so that's an excellent point. And I just want to make sure I understand the supplies side of it. So when we're talking food, I mean, you mentioned canned goods. That's one particular thing. Are there other kinds of foods, I mean, nutritional things?
Yeah, I think frozen fruit and vegetables is a great idea. Right. Things that will last for some time, but, you know, that are going to be nutritious and actually help you have a healthy, balanced diet. You know, lots of things like canned beans, things like that you can keep in your cupboard. I mean, these are things that won't perish easily. So if you don't use them, it's great. You just have extra supply on hand.
Ideally, things that you already use, I suppose.
Right.
Right. So what are the kinds of medication that people should think about stockpiling?
I think definitely things like, you know, essential medications, heart medications, diabetes medications, things like that. I mean, it's good practice for you to really have a couple of months of that on hand, if possible, at any given time. So I think that's important. Cold and flu type medications are really just for symptom, you know, making you feel better. Right. And it's not a bad idea to have some of that on hand as well.
Not too long ago, recently, we heard from the Director General of the World Health Organization, who had this to say about hoarding, but of a different sort. Have a listen.
We're concerned that countries' abilities to respond are being compromised by the severe and increasing disruption to the global supply of personal protective equipment caused by rising demand, hoarding, and misuse. Shortages are leaving doctors, nurses, and other frontline health workers dangerously ill-equipped to care for COVID-19 patients.
Personal protective equipment, we're talking respirators, masks. If I'm sick and I'm trying to protect my loved ones at home, then it makes sense to wear a mask.
I mean, I think it is a challenge because if there is someone ill at home, it would be better if that person wore a mask when you're taking care of them. At this time, though, the need for the mask are really in the healthcare centers, where patients who come in, they need a mask to protect the healthcare worker as well as the patients around them. And certainly I think Dr. Hoda can speak to how hospitals have a plan to have a stockpile of essential medical equipment, including masks.
You know, when it comes to large-scale gatherings, I mean, the International Olympic Committee right now is carefully sort of watching and waiting to see how the situation develops to decide whether or not the Olympics in Tokyo upcoming should go ahead, whether they should be postponed or canceled. IBM, we just got an alert that they're canceling an event in San Francisco coming up, 30,000 people. They'll have a digital-only sort of an event. Should we be taking a cue from that? And so when we decide, hey, you know, maybe I was considering going to the movies or taking the subway or going to a concert.
So different gatherings are different gatherings. And if something is a gathering in Sudbury, for example, where there is nothing happening, that's one type of gathering. I think each gathering needs to be taken in context of what's happening at the time. What we will say today even may not hold a week from now. So it needs to be reassessed all the time.
Right.
And different countries are doing different things related to gatherings.
So Dr. Hoda, how do you make that decision then?
Well, I think you have to be aware of what's happening in your community. Once there is actual community spread, so person-to-person spread that isn't related to travel, you know, in your area, you know, then you want to start thinking about what we call social distancing measures so that you avoid having large gatherings of people together where you can actually facilitate transmission from person to person. We're certainly not at that point here in Canada, but there are other parts of the world where, as we've seen, they've had to actually use these measures.
But haven't we sort of heard from experts, among you are among them, that it is sort of inevitable that this strain of coronavirus comes here, if it isn't already here in larger numbers than we understand, at least according to the confirmed cases. So, you know, there are people out there who wonder, isn't the way to avoid getting sick in the first place to avoid those sorts of gatherings?
Well, I think we probably all have comments about this. It's always a judgment call when you actually need to, you know, kind of step up your measures. Right now, we're at a point where there are a confined number of cases that we know about in Canada. You know, we aren't seeing any indication of widespread transmission from person to person, or, you know, we'd see that in the hospitals. We'd see that in the healthcare system. Right. So we're not at that point right now. And there are things that the public can do, washing their hands and not touching the face, and these sort of general infection control measures that would be helpful and protective in general for infections.
So that actually raises a really excellent point, because you know, we've heard sort of time and time again that a clear way to protect yourself from this coronavirus boils down to those good personal hygiene sort of practices. So washing your hands, don't touch your face. What about this smartphone? How important is it to keep this clean? Can the coronavirus survive on a surface like this? We'll ask our panel after the break. Hey, welcome back. Around the table, we've got two infectious disease specialists and a registered nurse. So we have Dr. Susie Hoda, Dr. Colin Lee, and Doris Grinspun, also the president of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. So the promise before we went to break was that we would talk about these darn things, that I touch mine more than I touch my face. So what do people need to know about how clean they ought to be keeping these? Do I need to disinfect this because the virus can live on this sort of a surface? Doris, you want to start us off?
So let's start with hand washing. So I will be so happy if everybody does hand washing in normal times, and at this time, the way they should, the amount of time they should, and the techniques that they should. And yes, they need to be cleaning and not taking this in normal times to the washroom, let alone now to anywhere. So yes, they need to clean it, and they can clean it with hand sanitizer. It's as simple as that.
And this is based in science, in the sense that we know that the coronavirus can survive for some significant period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the coronavirus, like many other viruses, can survive for a number of hours on surfaces. And the key is not getting any of that stuff on your face. Right. You are touching it all the time. So you just need to increase the amount of hand washing, because that's the more practical thing to do, instead of trying to keep washing your your phone, which may actually wreck it.
Yes, that's right.
Because it is using some stuff that can be quite corrosive.
You're about to add.
Yeah, I was just going to add another thing that we do commonly is we show people things on our phones. So we're sharing our phones with other people all the time. So that might be a practice people want to think about again.
And so it kind of raises that question. I mean, just to bring things back to not just hand washing, but even hand shaking, right? This is something that I know you spoke about on our program not too long ago. I mean, that we're at the sort of point where we need to kind of reevaluate how we interact with everything and everyone. I mean, we're at that point.
Yeah, I think we are at that point because we're seeing what's happening elsewhere. We are ahead of the curve at this time. We don't have any community-wide transmission, so why not try to switch to more safer ways of doing things, including greeting people. I think everyone will understand that we don't want to potentially transmit the virus from one person to the next, and it also saves us from hand washing.
And that's a good practice during cold season and during flu season.
Sure.
So it's not a bad habit to get when you see that other people are,
Just as we sort of broaden out the conversation, Doris, I do want to give you the last word because I know you're involved at a much higher level, right, provincially, in terms of trying to manage all of the different moving parts and how well prepared this province is. And I'm speaking about Ontario. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what are the kinds of things we ought to be keeping in mind?
Yeah, so there are two aspects to it, right? One aspect is to try to keep ahead of the curve, to keep preventing. And for that, it's so important to have the public on site, as well as everybody on site, that we are together on this too. The person to fight is the COVID-19, not anybody else. The other piece is to be prepared for a worst-case scenario. And that's the community preparedness. And yes, hospitals need to be ready, but more even so the community. So we are speaking about issues like virtual care, for example, which will be very important for people if they are in self-isolation and the numbers grow. And then at the system level to ensure that the personal protective equipment is used when it's needed, not, because we are fearful, and that is used appropriately for the appropriate type of people that come into our doors.
Doris Grinspun, Dr. Colin Lee, Dr. Susie Hoda, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And when we come back, reliving the Rob Ford era at a theater near you.
You have to give me a couple of days before you do anything here.
Do you think it's real? I don't know.
When you're asked your opinion,
What the new movie gets right and wrong about a tumultuous time in Toronto's history.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, parents are giving control of their future children to agencies and surrogates, but have little to prove it's safe or legal. There are risks in the second part of our two-part series. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
When he was Toronto's mayor, the late Rob Ford drew international attention. Now, part of his story has become the basis of a movie. Run This Town recounts the search for the video of Ford smoking crack cocaine, but many aspects of the real story have been obscured in the fiction. Eli Glasner looks at what happens when those two worlds collide.
It's a good story. Everyone's story is always a good story until it's not.
Run This Town follows a fictional reporter scrambling to find a video of the Toronto mayor smoking crack.
you have to give me a couple of days before you do anything here.
Do you think it's real? I don't know.
For Torontonians, the media circus surrounding Rob Ford was all too real.
That's the mayor! He's a one-man stampede!
In the film, British actor Damian Lewis portrays the mayor as an addicted and abusive boss. This former city councillor says the movie ignored a critical facet of Ford.
The humanness of Rob did not come out in that film, and I think they missed that part of him. He does have a lot of support in Toronto, and there's a reason for that.
The film also takes some big liberties, cutting out the role of the Toronto journalists, Kevin Donovan and Robin Doolittle, who first reported on the crack-smoking video. Instead, the film is centered around a young male reporter played by Ben Platt. When the casting was first revealed, Doolittle tweeted sarcastically, "Why have a woman be a lead character when a man could do it?"
The first time I watched it, I felt angry that they had taken that license and erased what we did.
Donovan has seen Run This Town and appreciates parts of it.
I thought they did the backroom politics bang on.
But is disappointed with the portrayal of the press as hungry for clicks and ready to pay for scoops.
Do you know what kind of traffic this can pull at the site?
I do fear that the public will see the movie and think that's all we do. We just wait for a phone call to come in.
At the premiere, the director says he wasn't interested in the actual reporters.
If I had named the character a real journalist's name, it would be doing their story a disservice. This is a story about somebody who is not good at their job and thinks they deserve everything.
Canadian Nina Dobrev plays one of Ford's aides. She says while many of the characters are fictional, the impact Ford had on the people around him was real.
There's a lot of uncomfortable moments for my character in this film, and that's also part of why I felt like it was important to tell the story to keep that conversation going.
CBC News reached out to Doug Ford, Rob's brother, but the premiere declined to comment. Canadians can decide for themselves when the film opens Friday. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Jeopardy host Alex Trebek is celebrating an important milestone in his fight against cancer.
The one-year survival rate for stage 4 pancreatic cancer patients is 18%. I'm very happy to report I have just reached that marker.
Trebek went on to say the chemotherapy treatment has been a big challenge. Also that he's since struggled with depression, but he spoke at length about his family and his fans, giving him the motivation to keep fighting. He ended his update by promising to maintain a positive attitude and to keep everyone posted. Among the other stories we're following tonight, another cruise ship has become the center of attention when it comes to COVID-19.
That cruise ship is making its way back towards the state of California. That ship we've requested to be delayed, the arrival to be delayed.
The Grand Princess, carrying more than 3,000 people, is being held off the California coast tonight. Officials will test passengers for the coronavirus after learning 2 former passengers tested positive, one of whom died. The ship is from the same cruise line as the Diamond Princess, which was quarantined for more than 2 weeks off the port of Yokohama, Japan.
Now we're in the transition from yesterday's emergency to recovery.
Tennessee remains under a state of emergency tonight after dozens of people were killed early yesterday morning when tornadoes swept through parts of the state. Some are still missing, feared trapped under the rubble, and entire neighborhoods have been leveled. The federal government has offered assistance, and the president is set to visit on Friday. The U.S. military has carried out an airstrike against Taliban fighters accused of attacking an Afghan military checkpoint. The strike comes just hours after a phone call between President Trump and a Taliban leader, and just days after the two sides signed a deal, praised as the foundation for peace in the region. Taliban forces have carried out more than 40 attacks on Afghan troops since that agreement was signed, prompting a U.S. military spokesperson to call on the group to uphold the agreement.
After the break, capturing an unexpected moment.
I think this is the most viral anything I've shot has been, to my knowledge.
The story behind a dramatic end to Super Tuesday, and we are not talking about the results. That's next. You might have seen this picture circulating on the net. That is Jill Biden last night at a rally in California, intervening, shall we say, as protesters approached her husband Joe on stage. So it happened fast, and the photographer who snapped it was there as the drama unfolded. This moment you may have missed last night in the photos behind it all. That's our moment.
Back behind from where I could see, I started seeing someone running up the stage. And I just started hammering the shutter button on my camera. And then as the protester kind of came up, Jill kind of went for her hands and kind of pushed them up. Right as she's doing that, Sanders was coming in from the other side, like center tackle bear hug to the waist of the protester. That was it. And just this one moment, this one frame. And then from there, it was like, all right, cool, that just happened. You don't know when they're going to clear everyone out, so you just keep going. I didn't really realize what I had there in that moment until I was at the laptop. And I come across this, I had tagged it. I was like, wow, make sure you look at number 14. I think that's a great moment. It's kind of an interesting experience, to say the least, to have a picture go viral like this. But tomorrow's a new day, and we're already on to the next assignment now.
Okay, he's hardcore. But so, if I may say, is Simone Sanders. So she is Joe Biden's senior advisor, and obviously didn't take a moment, just saw what was happening, and did that sort of amazing,
Yeah, like
tackle
right
there.
across the
Exactly,
midsection.
and tweeted later, I broke a nail.
Is that all?
Yes, that's it.
Well, good for her. But it really goes to show, the power of a photograph, right? It is so much more evocative than the actual moment itself, which would
The
have...
power of two strong women, I'm just going to say.
Fair enough, fair enough. That's the National for this March 4th. Have a good night.
Good night.